So I played a lot of games in 2025, but today I'm going to be ranking my top 10. This list includes games from a variety of different genres and backgrounds, so there should be something for everyone. Alright, so kicking this list off, we have Half-Life 2. Now yes, I know what most of you are probably thinking. This game is old, I mean really old. But despite being older than me, and probably most people watching this, it has aged extremely well. It's honestly a must-play for anyone that enjoys first-person shooters. Additionally, the mechanics that Valve showcased in this game were so innovative that they haven't yet been recreated. So, to explain, Half-Life 2 involves physics-based mechanics that allow you to interact with nearly every item in the game. This gives you the ability to do everything from throwing explosive barrels to completely breaking the game and accelerating vastly beyond the intentional speed limit. This, coupled with its great weapon variety, compelling atmosphere, and decent story, make it a must-play even 24 years later. Alright, so number 9, I have Schedule 1. Now, this is definitely a more recent release, and I had a really fun time with it this year. For one, it's made by a single dev, which is honestly really impressive. For another, it actually delivers a really fun gameplay loop. Now, I don't know how much I can get into it on YouTube, but if you've been watching streamers this year, you've definitely heard of the game. Let's just say it involves manufacturing, mixing, and attributing products that get higher and higher based on value. It has a lot of satire, but that honestly just adds to the fun factor. The traversal is also really fun with a skateboard and cars you unlock. Now, it can get a little grindy, so this is a game that I mainly played while watching YouTube or a show on the second monitor, but it has a lot of activities that'll keep you hooked the entire way through. So overall, Schedule 1 was a great, albeit sometimes monotonous experience that I really enjoyed this year. Alright, so number 8, I have Palworld. Now, I know this might come as a surprise to a few of you because when this game released, it was kinda just dubbed off-brand Pokemon. But I actually had a lot of fun with it this summer, both solo and with friends. Now sure, the gameplay is pretty simplistic and it has a lot of that signature survival game jank. But for a game developed by a total of 50 people, it's actually put together remarkably well. The pals, basically this game's Pokemon, are fun to catch and the utilities are even better. The crafting is really cool and the building, while very basic, suffices overall. It doesn't have the most longevity because the gameplay loop can get pretty repetitive. Additionally, it's definitely pretty grindy and its promise of Pokemon with guns isn't fulfilled till a dozen or 2 hours in. But overall, Palworld is a game that, while sometimes monotonous, is definitely one that I had a lot of fun with this year. Alright, so number 7, I have Battlefield 2042. Now, this is a game that was pretty heavily ridiculed on release, and for good reason, honestly. DICE and EA really put this out in a pretty bad state, and it left a pretty bad taste in people's mouths at the time. But I'm here to tell you that, over 4 years later, it's actually a really fun experience. Now, I know what you guys are probably thinking. Wasn't there a new Battlefield released just this year? And you'd be absolutely right. So why did I go for the old one? Well, it came down to a few factors. First of all, I started playing this game well before Battlefield 6 came out, and it was kind of just untouched in my Steam library. So instead of dropping $70 on a new game, I decided to just pick up the old one, and I honestly had a good amount of fun with it. The gameplay is really solid, and the maps are pretty huge. So overall, Battlefield 2042, while terrible on release, delivers a very good experience in 2025. Alright, so number 6, I have Minecraft. Now, this is definitely an older game on this list, but it's one that I just keep coming back to. I usually just start up a world every January, and this year it was a single player one that I'm still playing to this day. I have a lot of fun with this and honestly play a bit too much, but it's really fun overall. Now, I don't think a single person watching this video needs an introduction to Minecraft. It's the best-selling game of all time and probably one of the most popular pieces of media ever made. In fact, it's the game that I started this channel playing. It honestly might be the most replayable experience there is, with the building, crafting, and survival elements never getting old, for me at least. In fact, I made a video a year ago ranking my top 10 games of all time, and this was in the number 1 spot. So yeah, overall, Minecraft is a game that I've been playing for a long time and will most likely keep playing for an even longer time. Alright, so number 5, I have Cyberpunk 2077. Now, this is a game that released in what many would consider to be a catastrophic state, and I definitely agree. But luckily, I never had to experience that. You see, I picked this up in late 2024 along with Elden Ring, and I didn't play it for a year. But I finally got around to it, and it was honestly a great time. I'd already played The Witcher a year ago, so I was pretty familiar with the mechanics that CDPR rolls with, but this game still surprised me with its narrative and the open world. As you might have already heard, Night City is huge, it's vast, expansive, and quite possibly the best cyberpunk city depicted in a video game. The narrative is also really unique, taking twists and turns and having a pretty cool ending. I'm also currently in the process of playing through the DLC, which is Phantom Liberty, and I'm really loving that so far. Honestly, more than the main narrative, I would say. So ultimately, Cyberpunk for me this year was definitely a case of better late than never, but I actually had a really fun time with the game this year. Okay, so number 4, I have Doom Eternal. Now, this is a game that I played earlier in the year, and it was absolutely amazing. The gameplay was some of the best from the first-person shooter genre. Not to mention the great enemy variety, the mediocre but entertaining story and the amazing music. And this is coming from me. Now I say that because I actually quit Doom 2016 about 2 years ago. I was coming off the heels of first-person shooters like Call of Duty and Titanfall 2, but it just didn't stick with me. But this game's gameplay mechanics mixed with the non-stop action honestly just hooked me more than the first one ever could. It honestly shocks me how a game can keep the adrenaline up throughout the entire runtime. Like, not once does the action stop in this game, crazy stuff is always happening and the game is always one-upping itself. But don't think this game is all mindless action, it's actually pretty difficult. I played on the second hardest difficulty and it was more difficult than I expected overall. But I love the difficulty in this game. There are no damage sponges, but the enemies are bountiful and they can take you out really fast. I love how this game really makes you feel like a glass cannon. You can tear through enemies, but they can kill you just as fast, especially if you're on higher difficulties. So overall, I would say Doom Eternal is one of the best first-person shooters ever made, and therefore definitely one of the best games that I played this year. Alright, so number 3, I have Terrarria. Now at this point, I feel like we get into the games that were a borderline addiction for me at one point. Before 2025, Terrarria is a game that I honestly just saw as 2D Minecraft. It's been sitting in my Steam library since 2022, and I hadn't really done anything with it. The most I did was beat the first boss in June of 2024. But this year, I went absolutely crazy. I had multiple worlds where I beat the game, and that's no easy task. This game is actually really long. I bought it for my friend and we grinded it out together along with the third person, and we also tried it on a variety of different difficulties. This was honestly one of the only games I was playing from like January to the summer. Oh yeah, and if you want to hear me talk about this game more, I have a whole video I made on my channel in around July, so I'll leave the link in the description. So overall, I spent a lot of time on Terrarria, and it shines as one of my favorite games that I played this year. Okay, so number 2, I have The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, these top 3 were pretty hard to order, so I think this and Terrarria are basically tied, but I would say that I overall enjoyed the experience more with this game. Sure, I spent less time in it, but it's honestly a really revolutionary sequel. I was just off the heels of Breath of the Wild in January, so I decided to boot up Tears of the Kingdom. But I wasn't even past the Great Sky Island when I started playing Terrarria. So I decided to postpone my playthrough until April. But by then I was already insanely into my number 1 spot on this list. So I started to play through in April, played for about 20 hours, and just dropped it. But I decided to pick it up in about mid-November of this year, and I'm super glad that I did. This game is amazing. Now I know that's a statement that might get me labeled a contrarian from a lot of Zelda fans, but for me, I think the mechanics were right up my alley. The building mechanics were great fun, and I honestly think they added a lot to the experience. Now if you didn't know, I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to puzzle solving in games. I'm someone who'll be staring down the solution to a problem for like 20 minutes and realize it was right under my nose the whole entire time. So I often dread doing puzzles in games, fearing I'll just have to look up a YouTube video for it because I couldn't be bothered to figure it out. But in Tears of the Kingdom, I genuinely looked forward to them. The shrines that I honestly kind of dreaded in Breath of the Wild were now just an opportunity to build something stupid. And this didn't just apply to the shrines, it applied to pretty much every facet of the game. You can build anything from a 2-fan hoverbike to a working Evangelion. And there's a bunch of other abilities that I didn't even mention. But if you want my full thoughts, I have a video reviewing the game, so I'll leave that in the description. So yeah, overall, Tears of the Kingdom was a great experience for me, and I honestly thought it was a sequel tailor-made for my enjoyment. But at the number 1 spot, I have Valheim. Now, I already have multiple videos up on the channel talking about this game, so I'm not going to retread any of those points. But let me just say, this game was absolutely phenomenal. As a survival game, it presents so much content in such a concise package. Now, there was a good amount of grind, especially in the early game, but for me, that honestly just made the process all the more rewarding. But full transparency, I was actually watching a show for most of my time with this game. But even so, the amount of content in this game is absolutely crazy, especially for one made by just a handful of developers. The exploration is top-notch, the combat is fun, and the building is engaging the entire way through. So overall, Valheim is the best game that I played in 2025 and definitely deserves the number 1 spot on this list. Alright, so that was my video ranking the 10 best games that I played in 2025. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If so, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. But that's about it for me. If you want, comment your favorite game that you played in 2025. And if you enjoyed this video, check out this one where I reviewed Valheim.